Hi everyone, welcome back to Undefined Life. It's Tash here. So today I want to talk about my number one tip for empaths. This is a tool, a technique, a practice that is absolutely going to change your life if you're an empath, a highly sensitive person, if you find yourself constantly in codependent dynamics, or even if you have an anxious attachment style. What I'm about to discuss today, if you implement this and you are consistent with this, it will absolutely change your life. So one way to know if this video and this tip is for you is if you consistently experience things like burnout, overwhelm, high levels of anxiety, you struggle to regulate your nervous system, you're a people pleaser, or even if you have things like physical ailments. Something I've noticed with highly sensitive people and empaths is that they tend to develop things like autoimmune diseases. So if you experience any of those things, you absolutely need this tip. So I'm going to begin this explanation with a quick story illustrating the absolute importance of this tip. So I'm currently house sitting in Dorset in a really lovely big family home, and the cleaner came in today and I was having a really good chat with her because she's a lovely lady, and straight away she confessed to being a people pleaser. She's got lots going on in her life right now, and she said to me that the house that I'm in at the moment that she cleans is an hour's drive there and an hour's drive back from her home. She doesn't get paid travel expenses, and the £10 an hour that she earns to be here is then spent on fuel. So she's actually making a loss cleaning this house for an hour and a half. So as the Leo that I am, with lots of fire energy in me, I'm thinking, well, this is just ludicrous. You're not making any money from this clean. Why are you still here? And she said she struggles to say what she wants to say. She struggles to communicate what she wants to communicate because she doesn't want to hurt other people's feelings, and she hates letting people down. So if you're an empath, as I am, you are probably really familiar with this predicament, this sense of you want to do something, or maybe you want to take action, or you want to start something, or you want to end something, but there's this real sense that you don't want to hurt people or let them down or be disruptive or cause conflict. And this really boils down to the tip I'm sharing today, which is boundaries. Now, you may have heard about boundaries before. It's spoken about a lot in the personal development communities, but we really overlook just how nuanced boundaries are, because it goes a lot deeper than just being able to say no in our relational exchanges, although that's super important for boundary setting too. But actually, as we're going to explore in this video, setting boundaries is absolutely essential in all aspects of our lives. Boundaries are the parameters for our energy and awareness. So if we don't have boundaries in place, we are essentially leaking energy. We are leaking our awareness. We are leaking our attention until there's nothing left for us as individuals. And this is one of the most common reasons why empaths experience burnout, because the empath has their awareness and energy focused on the other, the external. Being an empath is a very self-sacrificing energy generally. The focus will always be on the other person's needs, and therefore the individual needs are often neglected. And really interestingly, someone that is empathic or highly sensitive actually developed these tendencies during childhood as a form of hypervigilance. So you might find that if you're highly sensitive or you're empathic, you're very attuned to your external circumstances, to people's body language, to people's energy, to, very subtle things that maybe other people don't pick up on. The reason for that may be that because as a child, you needed to be highly attuned to your environment. If you grew up in an environment with lots of instability, with violence, with abuse, with a parent with an addiction issue or mental health issues like I did, that was a big thing for me. My dad has psychosis and schizophrenia. And so as a kid, I was exposed to a lot of volatility a lot of the time, and I developed this kind of hyper-attuned way of being where I was vigilant of the changes in his tone. Is he going to get angry? And I became hyper aware of my external environment to try and protect myself. So it's really interesting that empathy has actually been proven to be a defense mechanism, essentially. It's actually born out of traumatic incidences or circumstances. And we can live most of our lives feeling like empathy or being highly sensitive is a curse when we don't have boundaries in place. Because as I mentioned earlier in this video, we experience things like burnout, fatigue, overwhelm, nervous system dysfunction, high anxiety. We just feel overwhelmed by life. And that is why boundaries are absolutely vital for empaths. So how do we actually go about setting boundaries? Well, we can't set boundaries unless we know what we're setting boundaries around. So in order to set boundaries, we have to get really clear and honest about our energy expenditure in our lives. So when I'm working with clients, what we will do is go through what I like to call an energy inventory. So this means taking all areas of your life, your love relationships, your friendships, your family, your work relationships, your relationship to your work or vocation, your hobbies, your health, and all your health and wellness habits. You want to scan every single area of your life and begin to get honest about where there is imbalance. So the questions you might want to ask as you examine each of the facets of your life is, where am I leaking energy? Where am I over giving? What do I do on a regular basis that empties my cup? And who or what leaves me feeling depleted? And as I said earlier, this is so much more in depth than simply our relational exchanges. Boundary setting comes into every single aspect of our experience. It's our relationship to our devices, to social media. It's our relationship to food. It's our relationship to how much we exchange energy with other people and what energy we're exchanging from. Through my own research and also work with clients, I've come to realize that boundaries are really innately linked to how present we are and how busy and consumed by mind content we are. So if our mind is busy, or we are kind of in the realms of the mind with a lot of the thinking mind, intellectualizing, we're on social media, we're engaged in mind-based activities, or we're kind of running on autopilot, we are leaking energy. Because we are not in conscious awareness, we're not in presence, we're operating from the hamster wheel of the mind. And in those states where our energy is absorbed by something, by, Instagram, by YouTube, by the television, most of the time we're not aware of the needs of the body, of our individual emotional, psychological needs at that time. We're not tapping into where our energy is at and whether what we're doing in that moment is best serving our energy. So if you actually want to experience radical change in your energy levels, in the way that you communicate with others, in the amount of self-love and self-respect you have, you must begin to implement boundaries. Another thing that is absolutely essential for boundary setting is getting super clear on what your individual needs, values and desires are. Because there's such a focus on the external, the other person, on overgiving and attending to other people's needs when we're an empath, we often neglect our own individual needs. And this is why there is such imbalance when we are highly sensitive and unaware of our own energy and we don't have boundaries in place, because we are just leaking energy that needs to be redirected within. So as you take an inventory of your life and you look at each of the areas I mentioned, also take a look at what your absolute non-negotiable essential needs are in each area. So for example, with your hobbies, it might be that you absolutely, for your own sanity, for your own joy, for your own bliss, you have to attend 2 classes a week of dance, of martial arts, whatever it is that you love, because that keeps you feeling really buoyant and topped up. If you're looking at family, it might be that you realize you need space from regular communication, whether that's on the phone, on WhatsApp, whatever the case, you need space from regular contact with your family. So it might be a case of putting a boundary in place where you say, I'm not available at these times, on these days. It can manifest in a multitude of different ways in our relationships, but especially in our romantic relationships, when we're not setting appropriate boundaries, codependency becomes rife, especially if you've got an anxious attachment style. There tends to be this tendency to lean on the partner for our emotional, psychological needs. And so it's really important to establish what your core needs and values are so that you can begin to attend to your own needs, and therefore you respect your own boundaries, but also the boundaries of your partner. And this is not just exclusive to your romantic relationships. This is also true of your friendships, your family relationships. It's really important that we set boundaries not only for ourselves, but to respect and honor other people's space, other people's energy and awareness, other people's needs. Now, one thing that comes up a lot in my client sessions is this fear around setting boundaries. A lot of people will say to me that they feel really uncomfortable with setting boundaries because they're worried that they're either letting people down or that the person's going to react. Because if we've been in a codependent dynamic, for example, that other person may be used to getting lots of our attention, lots of our energy. And if we cut off that source, that's going to be disruptive for them and they might react, they might retaliate. What I'll say is this: boundaries can be set in a kind but firm way. We're not looking to set boundaries when we're angry. We want to set our boundaries from a calm, collected state where we're confident with the choice we're making, that it's kind for us and kind for the other person. And our only job when it comes to boundary setting is knowing the boundary and being consistent with it. How someone else responds to you setting that boundary is actually nothing to do with you. That's not your responsibility. Your only responsibility and duty is to yourself, your needs, your values, your desires, and setting boundaries around those things in an appropriate and consistent way. I will just reiterate, you are not responsible for other people's needs, which is why boundary setting is absolutely essential. Because as a highly sensitive person, once you start to collect and draw your energy back, you are going to notice such a significant shift in the way you move through the world. As someone that has experienced over a decade of chronic depression, 2 suicidal episodes, high anxiety for over 5 years, boundary setting was the single most transformative tool I've ever implemented. Everything started to change when I started to get really clear on where I was leaking energy and how I could begin to remedy that. And in the same way that practicing presence and mindfulness is a moment-to-moment, day-to-day practice, so is boundary setting. The only way we truly experience the benefits from setting boundaries is if we do it consistently, on a daily basis. I promise you, if you start to get honest and clear about your energy expenditure and about where you need to set better boundaries, and then you honor that, your life will change irrevocably. So I hope this video has been helpful. If you've got any comments or questions, please pop them in the comments section below. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel and you like this type of content, please hit the subscribe button, like this video, share with anyone that might benefit, and video suggestions are always welcome. And if you'd like to work with me on a one-to-one basis, I offer transformative coaching and spiritual mentorships. My mentorship program is actually now open and I'm taking in a small number of dedicated individuals who are looking to really transform their lives over a 3-month period. So if that sounds like you, drop me an email. I'll also leave my email in the comments section below. Otherwise, take really good care and we'll connect again soon.